Gemitu pushed through the crowded corridors of Nexus 7th, dodging drunk miners and shady traders. The pleasure station stank of cheap alcohol and desperation. He'd been stuck here for 3 months, watching his credits drain away on overpriced food and a tiny room that barely fit his bed. When the job offer came through his communicator, Jae-min almost deleted it. Bodyguard work usually meant protecting some paranoid merchant from imaginary threats, but the payment made him stop, scrolling. 50,000 credits for 2 days of work. Enough to buy passage back to civilized space and start over somewhere clean. The client was a Zenthari merchant named Kolvex. Jae-min had dealt with his kind before during the war. They were brutal but paid well and kept their word. The job seemed simple enough. Guard an alien entertainer until her new owner arrived to collect her. No violence expected, just stand around and look intimidating. Jae-min found the merchant's private suite on level 12. The door scanner read his biometrics and let him inside. The place was decorated with expensive art and silk curtains. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. It felt more like a museum than someone's home. "You must be my security contractor," Kolvex said, emerging from a side room, from a side. The key Zenthari's was tall and thin, with grey skin and 4 arms. His voice sounded like gravel in a cement mixer. "The merchandise is in the back room. Do not let anyone near her. Do not let her leave. Feed her twice a day. Nothing more." Jae-min nodded. He'd guarded worse things for worse people. "When does the buyer arrive?" "Tomorrow evening. A private shuttle will dock at Bay 7. Your job ends when she boards that ship." Kolvex handed him a key card. "The door locks from the outside. She cannot escape, but others might try to sample the goods. Prevent this." The merchant left without another word. Jae-min walked to the back room and used the key card. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a small but comfortable living space with a bed, desk, and bathroom. Sitting at the desk was the most beautiful creature Jae-min had ever seen. Hana's looked human at first glance, but her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed to glow softly in the dim light. Her long black hair fell like silk down her back. When she looked up at him, her eyes were large and silver like twin moons. She wore a simple white dress that looked expensive. Her movements were graceful and precise as she stood to face him. Everything about her seemed practiced, like she'd been trained from birth to be perfect. "You are my new guard," she said. Her voice was musical with an accent he couldn't place. "I am Hana. I suppose you have been told not to speak with me." Jae-min studied her face. Most alien entertainers he'd encountered were either broken by their circumstances or completely artificial in their behavior. Hana Wand was different. Behind those silver eyes was an intelligence that made him uncomfortable. She watched him like she was reading his thoughts. "I'm Bart Jae-minach," he said finally. "I'm here to keep you safe until tomorrow." Hana said and smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Safe," she repeated, as if the word had a different meaning for her. "Yes, I suppose that. Here's one way to describe my situation." Something in her tone made Gemini's pause. This wasn't going to be as simple as he'd thought. Jae-min Jorg settled into his chair outside Hana's room, expecting a boring night of watching empty corridors. But within the first hour, he realized this job wasn't going to be what he expected. Hana had asked permission to walk around the suite's main room. Jae-min saw no harm in it, so he unlocked her door and followed her out. She moved to the large window overlooking the station's central hub, where dozens of ships came and went through the docking bays. The wall display showed navigation data for incoming traffic. Hanawan stopped in front of it, her silver eyes scanning. "But the numbers." Without thinking, she reached out and touched the screen. Her fingers moved quickly, changing several calculations. "What are you doing?" Jae-min asked, stepping closer. Hana pulled her hand back like she'd been burned. The trajectory for that cargo ship was wrong. They would have collided with the station's outer ring." She looked embarrassed, like a child caught doing something forbidden. Jae-min checked the display. The math was beyond him, but he could see she'd made several complex changes to the flight path. How did an entertainer know advanced space? Navigation? More importantly, how had she spotted an error that the station's computers had missed? Where did you learn to do that? He asked. Hannah wrapped her arms around herself. I should not have touched it. Please do not tell Kolvex. He does not like when I show knowledge of such things. That evening, Jae-min's old war injuries started acting up. Shrapnel in his left shoulder always gave him trouble when the station's artificial gravity fluctuated. He tried to hide the pain, but Hannah noticed him favoring his arm. You are hurt, she said softly. Old wound, nothing serious. Jae-min rolled his shoulder, trying to work out the stiffness. Hannah began humming under her breath. The melody was unlike anything Jae-min Chu had ever heard. It seemed to vibrate through the air, creating harmonics that felt almost physical. Within minutes, the burning pain in his shoulder faded to nothing. Jae-min stared at her in amazement. How did you do that? Do what? Hannah asked, but her eyes showed she knew exactly what he meant. The humming. My shoulder hasn't felt this good in years. Hannah looked away. Perhaps you were simply ready to heal. Sometimes the body knows what it needs. But Jae-min Fowles wasn't convinced. There was something about her voice, something that went deeper than just sound. He'd heard of alien species with unusual abilities, but he'd never experienced anything like this. The real shock came on the second day. Jae-min was checking the suite's security feeds when 3 station thugs appeared in the corridor outside. He recognized them as Drax crew, local criminals who thought they owned level 12. We heard one Kolvex has something pretty locked up in there, their leader said into the door's communication panel. Thought we'd take a look before the buyer shows up. Jae-min Chu reached for his weapon, but the thugs had already overridden the door locks. They burst into the suite with shock sticks and ugly grins. Where's the merchandise? The leader demanded. Hannah emerged from her room like she'd been expecting them. Her graceful movement seemed different now, more controlled, more dangerous. When the first thug reached for her, she moved faster than Jae-min's eyes could follow. Her hand struck the man's wrist, and Jae-min heard bones crack. The shock stick fell to the floor. She spun and kicked the second attacker in the chest, sending him flying into the wall. The third thug tried to grab her from behind, but Hannah twisted out of his grip and struck him in the neck with 2 fingers. He collapsed unconscious. The whole fight lasted maybe 10 seconds. Jae-min stood frozen, his weapon half drawn. Hannah straightened her dress and looked at him calmly, as if nothing had happened. I apologize for the mess, she said. Should we call station security to remove them? After the unconscious thugs were dragged away by station security, Jae-min Chu couldn't stop staring at Hannah. She sat quietly at her desk, hands folded in her lap like nothing had happened. But he'd seen her move. No entertainer fought like that. We need to talk, Jae-min said, locking the suite's main door. Hannah looked up at him with those silver eyes. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she sighed, and something in her posture changed. The perfect, submissive entertainer mask slipped away, revealing someone much older and sadder underneath. What would you like to know? She asked. Start with who you really are and don't tell me you're just some alien dancer. Hannah stood and walked to the large window. Outside, ships moved between the docking bays like glowing insects. My people are called the Ethereals. We were a civilization that spanned dozens of star systems. We built cities that floated in clouds of gas giants. Our ships could fold space itself to travel between galaxies. Jae-min felt a chill run down his spine. 300 years ago, the Musanthari Empire had found us. They saw our technology and wanted it for themselves. We were peaceful people. We had no armies, no weapons of war. When they came with their fleets, we tried to negotiate. We offered to share our knowledge freely. Hannah's and reflection in the window looked haunted. The Zenthari Hao were not interested in sharing. They wanted to own us completely. They destroyed our worlds one by one, killing billions of my people. Those who survived were taken as slaves. Jaiminis had fought in the border wars with the Zenthari. He knew how brutal they could be, but this was genocide on a scale that made his stomach turn. How many of you are left? Perhaps a few thousand scattered across the galaxy. Most people think we are extinct. Hana turned to face him. The Zenthari created the Geisha tradition to keep us useful. They dress us up, teach us to dance, and sing, then sell us to wealthy collectors who want exotic pets. But that's not really what you are, Jamin said. Hana smiled sadly. No, we are libraries, living repositories of our people's knowledge. Every ethereal geisha carries part of our civilization's memory. Music, mathematics, science, history. We pass it down through songs and dances that look like entertainment to outsiders. She moved to the center of the room and began to hum. It was the same melody that had healed Jamin's shoulder, but now he listened more carefully. Hidden in the tune were patterns, sequences that felt almost like data being transmitted. That song contains the mathematical principles for quantum field manipulation. Hana explained. This dance, she moved her hands in flowing gestures, preserves the chemical formulas for medical treatments that could cure diseases your people have never solved. Jamin felt his worldview shifting. The Zenthari, Lee, I know about this. Some do. Most think we are simply well-trained pets, but a few understand what we really carry. They hunt us trying to extract our knowledge through torture or brain scans. Once they have what they want, they dispose of us. The pieces fell into place. In Jamin's Paik's mind, your buyer tomorrow, he's not just some collector, is he? Hana's face went pale. Admiral Vextar. He was there when my homeworld burned. I watched his ships rain fire from the sky while my family died below. Her voice stayed steady, but Tatin Jaiminiad could see her hands trembling. He has been searching for someone like me for decades, someone who carries the secrets of ethereal Fantimar and space-folding technology. What happens when he gets you? He will connect my brain to his computers and extract everything I know. The process will leave me as an empty shell, but he will have the power to move his armies instantly across the galaxy. No world will be safe from the Zenthari Empire. Jamin Chil sat down heavily. When he'd taken this job, he thought he was guarding some alien courtesan for a few days. Now he was looking at the last keeper of a dead civilization's greatest secrets, secrets that could determine the fate of every free world in the galaxy. That night, Jaimini couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Hana had told him. Her entire civilization wiped out, their knowledge scattered among a few survivors who lived as slaves. It made his own war experiences seem small by comparison. He was checking the security feeds when his communicator buzzed. A message from Buum. Colvex. Change of plans. Buyer arrives early. Docking Bay 7, 0800 tomorrow. Have merchandise ready. Something about the message bothered Jamin. He pulled up the station's public records and searched for incoming ships. What he found made his blood run cold. The ship scheduled to dock at Bay 7 was the Zenthari military vessel Dark Conquest. Its registered captain was Admiral Vextar, a name Jamin recognized from intelligence briefings during the war. Vextar wasn't just any Zenthari commander. He was the butcher of 3 star systems, responsible for the deaths of millions. Jamin dug deeper into the records. Vextarchi had been promoted to head of Zenthari's Special Research Division 5 years ago. His new job involved studying alien technologies and finding ways to use them for military purposes. The pieces were falling into place, and Jamin didn't like the picture they made. He walked to Anhana's room and found her sitting by the window staring out at the stars. She looked so young and fragile in the dim light, but he knew now that appearance was deceiving. I looked up your buyer, so Jamin said quietly. Hanas didn't turn around. Then you know who he really is. Admiral Vexter. The Zenthari has military's top scientist. He's not buying you as entertainment. No. Hana's voice was barely a whisper. He has spent years hunting for someone like me. My people have been very careful to hide what we truly carry, but Vextars is clever. He has captured 3 other Ethereal's Geishas in the past decade. Jaemin felt sick. What happened to them? Neural extraction. They connected their brains to quantum computers and pulled out every memory, every piece of knowledge we carry. The process destroys the mind completely. They become empty shells that can barely breathe on their own. Hannah finally turned to look at him. Her silver eyes reflected the starlight like tears. But Vextar never found what he was really looking for. The others carried fragments, pieces of our science and culture. I am different. How? I am what my people call a keeper of the deep archive. While other ethereals carry songs and dances, I carry the complete technical specifications for our most advanced technologies. Space-folding drives, quantum field generators, matter converters that can turn asteroids into anything we need. Jaemin understood now why a Vextar had paid so much for her. With that technology, the Xantharians could move their entire fleet anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Worse than that, they could fold space around enemy worlds, crushing them like tin cans. They could convert entire planets into raw materials for their war machine. What I carry in my mind could give them power beyond imagination. Jaemin walked to his equipment bag and pulled out his military scanner. "Show me your neural pattern." Hannah hesitated, then placed her hand on the device. The scanner lit up with readings that made Jaemin's eyes widen. Her brain showed activity levels unlike anything he'd seen. Entire sections were lit up like Christmas trees, processing information at impossible speeds. "Your whole mind is like a living computer," he said in amazement. "This is what my people became over thousands of years of evolution. We learned to store vast amounts of information in our genetic memory. Each generation carried more knowledge than the last. I am the product of that evolution, a living library of everything my civilization ever learned." Jaemin set down the scanner and looked at her, really looked at her, not as an alien or an entertainer or even as a person, but as the last hope of an entire species. The weight of responsibility was crushing. When Vextar gets what's in your head, how long before the Xanthari use it? Days, maybe weeks. He already has the extraction equipment ready. Once he downloads my memories, their scientists can begin building the technology immediately. Hannah stood up and smoothed her dress. "I have accepted my fate, Jaemin. Tomorrow I will die, so that my people's knowledge dies with me. It is better than letting it be used to destroy others. But Jaemin was already thinking like a soldier again. There had to be another option. Jaemin had paced the main room while Hannah slept. His mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. In 6 hours, Admiral Vextar would arrive to collect her. In a week, the Xantharians would have technology that could crush any resistance in the galaxy. He pulled up his bank account on his personal tablet. The 50,000 credits were already there, payment for a job well done. Enough money to start fresh, somewhere far from the war zones. He could buy passage on a luxury liner, find a quiet planet, maybe open a small security business. Live peacefully for the rest of his life. All he had to do was hand Hannah over and walk away. Jaemin thought about his old unit from the war, good soldiers every one of them. They died fighting Xanthari forces on 3 different worlds, believing they were protecting humanity's future. What would they say if they knew he had a chance to strike a real blow against the Xantharius Empire and chose money instead? He thought about the border colonies where he'd grown up. Simple farming worlds where people worked hard and raised their families in peace. If Vextar got Hannah's knowledge, those worlds would be defenseless against space-folding Xanthari fleets. His own parents were buried on one of those planets, but this wasn't his fight, was it? He was just a security contractor trying to make a living. The fate of the galaxy wasn't his responsibility. Jaemin looked at his service pistol lying on the table. Standard military issue, reliable, but nothing special. Against Vextar's guards and ship security, it would be useless. Even if he could somehow get Hannah off the station, where would they go? The Xantharians had ships throughout this sector. His communicator buzzed, a message from his ex-wife, Mi Young Kai, back on Earth. Their daughter, Sora had made the honor roll at school again. The attached photo showed a bright-eyed 12-year-old holding a certificate and grinning at the camera. Jae-min stared at the picture for a long time. Sora looked so much like her mother, the same determined expression, the same stubborn chin. She wanted to be a starship engineer when she grew up, to explore the galaxy and help build a better future. What kind of galaxy would she inherit if the Zenthari had ethereal technology? Jae-min closed the message and walked to Hana's kid door. She was awake, sitting on her bed with her hands folded in her lap. She looked calm, almost peaceful. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "I keep thinking about something you said, about accepting your fate." Jae-min leaned against the doorframe. "That's not very human thinking." Hana tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "Humans don't accept fate. We're too stubborn for that. When someone tells us something is impossible, we usually take that as a challenge." Jae-min sat down across from her. "My species has a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." "I do not understand." Jae-min smiled grimly. "It means that sometimes the smaller fighter wins because they refuse to give up. Humans have been the underdogs in every major conflict we've ever faced. We're not the strongest or the smartest species in the galaxy, but we're definitely the most pig-headed." Hana studied his face. "You are thinking of doing something foolish, probably. The smart thing would be to take my money and disappear. Let someone else worry about galactic politics." Jae-min stood up and began checking his equipment. "But I keep thinking about my daughter. She's 12 years old and wants to explore the stars someday. I'd like her to have stars worth exploring." Jae-min, "You cannot fight the entire Zenthari military?" "Maybe not. But I don't have to fight all of them, just the ones on this station." He loaded fresh power cells into his pistol. "Besides, I won't be fighting alone. I'll have the last keeper of the deep archive and watching my back." Hana stood up quickly. "I cannot ask you to risk your life for me." "You're not asking, I'm choosing." Jae-min met her silver gaze. "That's what humans do. We choose to fight even when the odds are hopeless. It's probably why half the galaxy thinks we're crazy." For the first time since he'd met her, Hana smiled, really smiled, not the practiced expression of an entertainer. Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs right now, a little human craziness. Jae-min grinned back. "Then let's give them something to remember." Jae-min outspread the station schematics across the table. Nexus 7 was a maze of corridors, maintenance shafts and security checkpoints. Getting Hanakisi from level 12 to the docking bays without being caught would be nearly impossible. "The main routes are all monitored," he said, tracing paths with his finger. "Security cameras, motion sensors, armed checkpoints. Vextars will have his people watching every exit." Hana leaned over the schematics, studying them carefully. "What about the maintenance tunnels?" "Too narrow. And they're filled with security sensors." Jae-min rubbed his forehead. "We need to disable the surveillance system, but the security office is on level 5. We'd never make it that far." Hana placed her hand on the table's data display. "May I?" Jae-min nodded. Hana pressed her palm against the screen, and immediately the display began changing. Code scrolled past faster than Jae-min could read. Within seconds, she had accessed the station's central computer network. "How are you doing that?" Jae-min asked, amazed. "My people evolved alongside our technology. Over thousands of years, we learned to interface directly with our machines." Hana's eyes were closed in concentration. "Our nervous systems can communicate with electronic networks through bioelectric fields." The security camera feeds appeared on the screen. Hanafi cycled through dozens of views, showing corridors, docking bays, and control rooms throughout the station. Jae-min watched her work, realizing she was basically hacking the entire station with her bare hands. "There," Hana said, opening her eyes. "I can see Vextar's ship in Bay 7. He has 12 guards positioned throughout the station and 6 more on his vessel." Jae-min studied the guard positions. "Professional setup. They've got overlapping fields of fire and backup teams ready to respond." He looked at Johanna Fant with new respect. Can you disable the security systems? Some of them. But if I shut down too much at once, they will know something is wrong. I can create blind spots, windows of time when certain sensors go offline for routine maintenance. Jamin Chihi began to see possibilities. What about the station's power grid? Can you access that too? Hanas placed her hand on the display again. New schematics appeared, showing power conduits and generator stations. Yes, the station has 3 main power cores. If one goes offline, backup systems activate automatically. But if 2 go offline, emergency. Lighting only. Most security systems would shut down to conserve power. Hannah looked at him, but that would also disable life support in many areas. People could be hurt. Jamin shook his head. We won't shut down life support. Just security and non-essential systems. He pointed to the schematics. How long would it take you to do this? From here? Too long. I would need to access a primary data terminal closer to the power cores. Hana highlighted several locations on the map. Any of these would work. Jamin studied the options. This one, level 8 near the shopping district, lots of civilian traffic to blend in with. He began planning their route. We'll need disguises, something that makes us look like regular station residents. Hana smiled. I may be able to help with that too. She moved to the suite's closet and began pulling out clothing. But instead of changing outfits, she placed her hands on the fabric. Jaimini watched in fascination as the colors began to shift and change. The expensive silk dress became rough work clothes. Her long hair shortened and darkened. Molecular manipulation, Hannes explained. Another gift from my people's evolution. I can alter the basic structure of organic materials. Can you change your face? Not completely, but enough to avoid casual recognition. Hanawa touched her cheeks and her features shifted slightly. The ethereal beauty became more ordinary, more human-like. Jamin changed into maintenance worker coveralls. We'll move during shift change. More people in the corridors. Easier to disappear in the crowd. What happens after we disable the security systems? We steal a ship and get out of here before Vextar realizes what's happening. Jamin checked his weapon one more time. The hard part will be reaching the docking bays without getting caught. Hana studied the schematics again. I may have another option. The station's cargo handling system uses automated transport pods. If I can access the control network, how you could program a pod to carry us directly to the docking level, Jamin finished. Brilliant. No guards, no checkpoints. For the first time since accepting this job, Jamin felt like they might actually have a chance. Hana's abilities were unlike anything he'd encountered. Combined with his military training, they made a formidable team. There's something else, Hana said quietly. If we do this, there is no going back. Vextar will hunt us across the galaxy. Your old life will be over. Jiminy thought about his quiet retirement plans, his bank account, his chance at peace. Then he thought about his daughter's future. Some things are worth the risk, he said. The plan started perfectly. Jiminy can I say? Hana walked through the station corridors like any other workers heading to their shift. Her disguise was flawless, just another maintenance tech with a toolkit and work orders. They reached the data terminal on level 8 without incident. Hanaru placed her hand on the interface while Jamin kept watch. Around them, shoppers and traders went about their business, unaware that the station's entire security network was being quietly compromised. First power core is offline, Hanaxi whispered. Emergency systems are compensating. Jamin-chi watched the corridor. A few lights dimmed, but nothing dramatic enough to cause alarm. How long for the second core? 30 seconds. Hana's eyes were closed in concentration. I am also programming the cargo transport. Pod 7 will be waiting for us on this level. That's when everything went wrong. Contact. Jamin shouted, spotting Nun Zenthari. Guards rounding the corner. Someone had recognized Hana despite her disguise. Energy blasts sizzled past their heads as Jamin returned fire. His military training kicked in automatically. Cover, movement, suppressing fire. But there were too many guards and not enough places to hide in the shopping district. "How much longer?" he called to Hana. "Almost finished." Her hand remained pressed to the terminal, even as weapons fire erupted around them. Zenthari. Energy blast hit the wall next to Jamin's head, showering him with sparks. He rolled behind a vendor stall and kept shooting. His human-made projectile weapon was less advanced than Zenthari's energy weapons, but it was reliable and deadly accurate. "Got it." Hana yanked her hand away from the terminal. Immediately, half the station's lights went out. Emergency klaxons began wailing as backup power systems struggled to maintain life support. The cargo transport pod arrived with a mechanical hum. Jamin grabbed Hana's Comsian hand, and they dove inside just as more guards appeared from 3 different directions. The pod's doors sealed, and it began moving through the station's automated transport network. "Where are we going?" Jamin asked, reloading his weapon. "Docking Bay 12, there is a small courier ship registered to leave in 20 minutes. Hana was already interfacing with the pod's control system. "I am overriding its departure schedule." The pod traveled through dark maintenance tunnels, carrying them toward the outer docking ring. Jamin checked his weapon and counted ammunition. Not much left for a prolonged fight. "Can you pilot that ship?" he asked. "My people were natural spacers. I carry the knowledge of dozens of ship designs in my memory." The pod stopped at docking. Bay 12. Jamin cautiously opened the doors and peered out. The courier ship sat waiting, a small, fast vessel designed for quick cargo runs. Perfect for their needs. But Zenthari. Guards were already surrounding the bay. They figured out where we were going. Jamin Seeksarit muttered, "How many do you count?" Hana touched the bay's control panel, accessing the security cameras. 8. Guards. 2 at the ship's entrance, 4 covering the main corridor, 2 watching the service tunnels. Jamin studied the layout. The guards had good positions and superior firepower. A direct assault would be suicide, but humans had never been known for taking the easy path. "Can you start that ship remotely?" "Yes, but the guards will hear." "The engines. That's the point." Jamin grinned grimly. "When I give you the signal, fire up the engines and open the cargo bay. Make as much noise as possible." "What are you planning?" "Something stupid and dangerous. Exactly the kind of thing humans are famous for." Jamin slipped out of the transport pod and began working his way around the docking bay's perimeter. The emergency lighting created pools of shadow that he used for cover. His military training had taught him that sometimes the best strategy was the one your enemy would never expect. He reached the maintenance panel for the bay's atmospheric controls. A few quick adjustments, and he had what he needed. "Now," he called to Bay, Hana. The courier ship's engines roared to life, just as Jamin triggered the bay's emergency decompression sequence. Warning sirens screamed as the massive bay doors began opening to space. The Zenthari's guards were caught completely off guard, as hurricane-force winds sucked everything toward the opening. Jamin had positioned himself behind a support beam, but the guards were in the open. 2 were pulled toward the bay doors. Before the emergency force field activated, the others scrambled for cover, their formation broken. Hana brought the ship's cargo ramp down. Jamin sprinted across the bay, dodging energy blasts from the remaining guards. A shot grazed his shoulder, spinning him around, but he kept running. He dove into the ship just as Hana sealed the ramp and engaged the engines. The courier ship shot out of the docking bay like a bullet, leaving Nexus 7 behind. But their freedom lasted exactly 30 seconds. Zenthari. Warship launching from Bay 7. Hanama reported from the pilot's seat. "Admiral Kita Vextars. Vessel, they are targeting us." Jamin strapped himself into the co-pilot's chair as energy blasts lit up the space around them. "Can we outrun them? This ship is fast, but how? Vextars. Vessel is a military cruiser. Better weapons, stronger shields, more powerful engines." Jamin watched the tactical display as the Zenthari ship gained on them. They had maybe 5 minutes before those heavy weapons were in range. Then we better be smarter than they are, he said. Time to see what humans and ethereals you can do when they work together. Hana pushed the stolen courier ship to its limits, weaving between asteroids in the outer system, while Vex Tar's warship closed the distance behind them. Energy blasts lit up the darkness around their small vessel like deadly fireworks, shields. Down to 40%, Jamin reported from the weapons console. One more direct hit and we're finished. Hana's hands danced across the pilot controls with inhuman speed. She was interfacing directly with the ship's computer, making adjustments faster than any normal pilot could manage. But even Ethereal's abilities couldn't overcome the basic physics of their situation. They were outgunned and outclassed. There, Hana said, pointing to a dense asteroid field ahead. If we can reach those rocks, their larger ship won't be able to follow as easily. They dove into the asteroid field just as another energy blast scorched past their hull. The Xanthariot's warship was forced to slow down, picking its way more carefully through the floating debris. It bought them precious time, but not much. We can't keep running forever, Jaminar said. That ship has better sensors and more firepower. Eventually they'll corner us. Hanasu was quiet for a moment, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the cockpit windows. When she spoke, her voice was different, older somehow, filled with the weight of centuries. Jamin, there is something else I must tell you. Something about what I truly carry. More ethereal technology. Yes, but not what you think. Hanamai activated the ship's autopilot and turned to face him. The space-folding drives and quantum weapons are only a small part of my people's knowledge. Most of what I carry has nothing to do with war. She touched the ship's data display, and holographic images began appearing in the air between them. Jamin saw star charts, but also something else, technical diagrams unlike anything he'd ever seen. This is a medical treatment that can regenerate lost limbs in days instead of months, Hanafar explained, manipulating the display. And this agricultural technique can grow crops in soil that was thought to be completely barren. My people learned to heal and nurture, not just destroy. More images appeared. Jamin saw designs for space habitats that could house millions, power systems that drew energy directly from stellar radiation, and transportation networks that connected entire star systems without harming their environments. We developed these technologies over thousands of years of peaceful exploration, Hana continued. My people believed that knowledge should be used to help all life flourish, not to conquer and control. Jamin studied the holographics displays in amazement. This could revolutionize everything. Medicine, agriculture, space travel, entire civilizations could benefit from this knowledge. That was always our dream. But when the Xantharides came, we had to hide everything. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, each carrying fragments of our civilization's memory. We became living libraries, preserving knowledge until someday we could share it freely again. How many survivors are there? Harnish brought up a star chart showing dozens of distant systems. Perhaps 3,000 ethereals remain, hidden among various alien populations. Most pose as entertainers, servants, or workers. Anything to avoid suspicion. Each one carries part of our heritage. Jamin felt the magnitude of what she was telling him. This wasn't just about preventing the Xanthari gains from getting weapons technology. This was about preserving the knowledge that could benefit every species in the galaxy. The Xantharis know about the others? Some. Vex Tarez has been hunting us systematically, trying to collect all the fragments. He believes that if he can gather enough ethereal knowledge, he can rebuild our technology for military purposes. Hana's expression grew sad. He does not understand that our greatest achievements came from cooperation, not conquest. Another energy blast rocked their ship, reminding them of their immediate danger. Jaim in tow looked at the tactical display. The Xanthari-Bactan warship was slowly working its way through the asteroid field, getting closer with each minute. These other Keka ethereals, Ipo, Jamin said. They're waiting for someone to help them reunite? We have always hoped that someday someone would help us gather the scattered pieces of our civilization. Someone who understood that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. Hannes met his eyes. My people have waited 3 centuries for that day. Jamin thought about his daughter again, about the future she would inherit. A galaxy where ethereal knowledge was used for healing instead of warfare. Where humans could learn from an ancient civilization that had chosen wisdom over weapons. What would it take to bring your people together? Safe passage to a neutral world where we could meet without fear. Protection from those who would exploit us. And most importantly, allies who understand that some things are more valuable than military power. Jamin made his decision. Then that's what we'll do, but first, we need to survive the next few hours. Hana smiled, the first truly hopeful expression he'd seen from her. You would really help us rebuild our civilization? Lady, after what I've seen today, I think the galaxy needs more ethereal wisdom and less Zenthari's brutality. Jamin checked their weapon systems. Besides, someone needs to teach these Zenthari's bullies that humans don't give up easily. The warship's searchlights swept across the asteroids, hunting for their small vessel. But Jamin was already planning their next move. The asteroid field provided cover, but Jamin knew they couldn't hide forever. Vextar's Opportunity warship had better sensors and unlimited time. Eventually they would be found and destroyed. He needed a different strategy. Hanasu, can you access the ship's communication array? Of course. She placed her hand on the console. What are you planning? Something that might get us both killed, but could save thousands of lives. Jamin pulled up the Galactic Sea communication network. I'm going to contact every human military unit, trading post and colony ship within 50 light years. Hana looked confused. Why? Because humans have one thing the Zenthari don't expect. We're completely unreasonable when someone threatens innocent people. Jamin began recording a message. This is Jamin Park, former sergeant in the Human Colonial Defense Force. I'm transmitting my service records now to verify my identity. He looked directly into the camera pickup. I'm currently protecting an ethereal refugee who carries the complete scientific knowledge of her civilization. The Zentharis want to extract this information to build weapons that could enslave every free world in the galaxy. I'm asking for help. Hana watched him with amazement. You think they will come? Humans have a saying, nobody messes with our friends. Jamin continued his broadcast. Their ethereals aren't just refugees, they're the key to medical advances that could save millions of lives, agricultural techniques that could feed entire worlds, and peaceful technologies that could benefit every species in the galaxy. They've been hiding for 3 centuries, waiting for someone to help them rebuild their civilization. On the tactical display, Vextar's warship was getting closer. But Jamin kept talking. I know most of you signed up to protect human colonies, not alien refugees. But this is bigger than species loyalty. This is about the kind of galaxy we want to leave for our children. The Zenthari want to use ethereal knowledge to build an empire. We have a chance to use it to build something better. Hana suddenly gripped his arm. Jamin, look at the sensor display. He turned to see new contacts appearing on the edge of the system. 1 ship, then 3, then a dozen. Human vessels of every description. Military patrol boats, merchant freighters, even a few converted mining ships. They were answering his call. This is Captain Dong-hyun of the trading vessel. Bright Star, came a voice over the communication channel. We heard your message, Sergeant. What do you need? More voices joined in. Freighter New Soul here. We're armed and ready. Defense Force Patrol Guardian reporting. Give us coordinates. Within an hour, 23 human ships had gathered in the outer system. Vextar's single warship was suddenly outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had no intention of backing down. Zenthari vessel, this is Captain Fars Dong-hyun. Speaking for the Human Defense Coalition, came the message across all frequencies. You are outnumbered 23-1. Withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences. Vextar's Doan response was predictable. These are Zenthari territorial waters. You have no authority here, humans. Actually, we do, Jamin had replied, taking over the communication. This system is unclaimed space under galactic law. And the lady you're chasing is under the protection of the Human Colonial Defense Force. Back off. For several tense minutes, nobody moved. Then Vextar's warship slowly turned and jumped to hyperspace. Even Zentarid arrogance had limits. Hana stared at the sensor display showing all the human ships. They came for someone they had never met, for a cause that was not their own. That's what humans do. Jamin Kao said simply. We help people who need help. It's probably our best quality, even if it gets us into trouble sometimes. Captain Dong Hyun's voice came over the communication again. Sergeant, what's your next move? We can provide escort to wherever you need to go. Jamin looked at Hana. Where do we start gathering your people? Hana brought up a star chart showing the locations of ethereal survivors. There is a neutral research station in the Andorian system. It would be a safe place for my people to meet. But it will take time to contact them all, and many are afraid to reveal themselves. Then we'll help them, Jamin said. Humans are good at making people feel safe. Over the next few months, Jamin found himself at the center of something he'd never expected, a galactic rescue operation. Human ships traveled to dozens of worlds, quietly making contact with hidden ethereals and offering them safe passage to the research station. The response was overwhelming. Ethereals, who had lived in fear for centuries, began emerging from hiding. They brought with them fragments of their civilization's knowledge, songs that contained medical formulas, dances that preserved agricultural techniques, art that held the secrets of sustainable technology. Jamin watched from the observation deck of the research station as ethereal refugees arrived daily. Hanabi stood beside him, no longer disguised as an entertainer. She wore simple clothes and had let her natural appearance return. The pale blue skin, the luminescent eyes, the graceful movements of her people. My daughter sent me a message. Yesterday, Jamin Fang said. She wants to study ethereal agricultural techniques when she grows up. Says she wants to help turn desert worlds into gardens. Hana smiled. Your species gives me hope, Jamin. You could have taken the Kai Zentari Kai gold and walked away. Instead, you chose to help strangers. We chose to help friends. Jamin's eyes corrected. That's what you are now. Below them, humans and Ho ethereals worked together, sharing knowledge and building something new. It wasn't the retirement Jamin had planned, but it was something better, a chance to be part of creating a galaxy where wisdom mattered more than weapons. The job that started with guarding one alien for 2 days had become a lifetime mission, and Jamin wouldn't have it any other way.